Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the Bitcoin miners and some dividend declaration dates and why the miners could be about ready to start ripping as soon as next month or even in October. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so basically the short of why I think that the Bitcoin miners are going to start ripping, as you guys know, the Fed has, I'm not going to say they've said definitively that they're going to cut rates next month, but there's a pretty strong signal that's being sent out that they're probably going to cut rates next month. So what does that mean? Basically, what that means is when the Fed cuts rates, savings rates, bond yields, not bond prices, bond yields, and certificates of deposit and the value of the US dollar will all fall. Okay, they're all going to go down. And what's going to happen on the flip side of that, or what I should say, what I expect to happen on the flip side of that is for stocks and crypto to go up because, as you guys know, Bitcoin is the market mover. Bitcoin and the US dollar have an inverse correlation. When the Fed funds rate is high, the dollar is strong. When the Fed funds rate goes down, the dollar weakens. Okay. So when the dollar weakens, Bitcoin goes up. When the dollar strengthens, Bitcoin goes down. In this particular instance, because the Fed is getting ready to cut rates, the dollar would weaken. And what will happen? Bitcoin would go up. Okay. So I'll show you guys a real quick snapshot of that. As you guys can see, the dollar is already starting to plummet. Okay. I want to show you guys a very, very quick snapshot of what something like this looks like. I have to go back here during the bull run. You guys can see the serious sell-off here, okay? That is what I'm talking about when I say the dollar weakens. What happens when that happens? Basically, the Fed had been raising rates all the way up into here. The pandemic happened, and then they're like, oh, God, we got to cut. There's a pandemic. So then they cut, and then boom, dollar just got absolutely slammed down. And that is when Bitcoin took off on its huge, massive bull run, as you guys know. And then topped out somewhere. Let's see, where did Bitcoin top out? November 2021, I think it was. Yeah, right around here. So the charts aren't perfectly matched up, but you get the idea here. So the other thing I want to show you guys can see that the bond yields have fallen substantially. Okay, so 2-year was all the way up at 5, almost 5.3. Now we're well below that. Okay, so we got this rising wedge. We've fallen out of that. It's below the EMAs. So basically, this tells me that because there's such a sharp decline in yields, that the bond market is actually really seriously expecting a rate cut this time. All right, so enough of that. Let me find the. You guys can actually see here that well, it's not super obvious, but crypto is already starting to go up, as you can see. Of course, with the Fed meeting minutes, they pretty much reiterated essentially the same thing they were already saying before. So, CME watch tool, after all that, still expecting at least a quarter basis point cut in September. All right, so let's get into now the dividend declarations here. All right, so we have this was the new fund that they have. Okay, the QQQ. It's like a blended ETF of some kind. So they have multiple different positions in here: Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Nvidia, Broadcom, so on, so on. Pretty much all the same. Well, maybe not exactly all the same positions as in FEPI, but a lot of these are the same. We don't really feel the need to hold both, so we're probably just going to stick with FEPI. The thing I want to point out here about this one is the inception date was almost exactly a month ago. And let's see. So you got a $25 price here. We don't actually have any of this, just so y'all know, but I'm just pointing this out for you guys so you know. And looks like, so it appears that this thing's been trading for about a month because it was incepted on 7/22 and the payment date is on 8/22. But it's only paying 8 cents a share. So I don't know if this is going to be the norm. Maybe we have to see another month to see what happens here. But if this is the norm, I definitely would not be buying this thing personally because I'm looking to get paid a little bit more. So let's go over the other ones here. So we have AMZP. Go down here, you can see a 36, almost 37 cents per share. So that's pretty good. And I mean, that's almost making history there. Not quite, but almost. Let's see now, AAPY. This is the Apple version. You guys can see that we are once again almost making history. The only month that we did not beat was the one at the bottom here. Still pretty good though, in my opinion. Google. So scroll all the way down here. You guys can see that this one is actually, this is a history breaker right here. So this is 38 cents a share. It's the largest dividend this thing's ever paid out. Pretty dang good if you ask me. And the share price is actually quite high compared to TSLP. As you guys know, the only position we have of these, at least so far, is TSLP. But the Google version of the Curve Invest ETFs is much higher in price than TSLP. So which one was this? I think this was Microsoft. Yeah, Microsoft. So this one is also a record, 34 cents. So that's amazing. Let's see, Netflix. Wow, this one's a whopper. So 55 cents a share, way bigger than any of the previous ones. That's pretty massive. Wow. Let's see here. Where's the share price? And the share price is obviously astronomical. Once again, in my opinion, TSLP is very undervalued compared to this. So you can see TSLP is, well, let's see if I can find the price here. Okay, so maybe it's only 23.21. I'm not sure why it says that. If I actually scroll up here on TradingView, see if I can find it here. Yeah, so it's actually a little bit lower than that. So, again, that's roughly about $8 off of the previous one. But again, the payout was really good. So 51 cents, not quite a record breaker, but still pretty good in my opinion. So now going over to the portfolio here, I do want to show you guys this. We do still have FEPI, or sorry, not FEPI. We still have Coney and MSTY, as you guys can see here. We are expecting them to recover and go back up substantially as Bitcoin breaks all-time highs. But the thing I want to show you guys here is this. If you are in a drawdown currently, you're not the only one. We're actually also in a drawdown. So you can see Mara here. We have average cost $23.90 or $23.49. Current market price $17.50. We're down as of right now roughly about 25%. Just so happened that our luck was we picked the local top twice on two different Bitcoin miners. Probably should have waited on that one, right? But it happens. We've been in this situation before. It's just we don't think the bull market's over yet, so we're just going to hold and wait for the price to recover. But as you can see, it's even worse here on CLSK. We could add to this, but I think we're probably just going to wait for it to rip back up and then get out for as much profit as we can get, if I'm being completely honest. So that's what's going on here. All right. So now getting into the miners, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds there, but I'm going to zoom down here to the 4-hour time frame. The thing I want to point out here is we did get a break of this downtrend. The other important things I want to point out is we got the MACD, we got the triple golden cross, basically the MACD, the RSI, and the EMAs. EMAs up here not quite crossed, but pretty close. I'm pretty confident they're going to cross golden before the end of the week. Of course, the Jackson Hole meeting could give us a scare this meeting, but to be honest, at this point in the Fed tightening cycle, I don't think it's going to be a hawkish meeting. I do actually suspect that the Jackson Hole is going to be dovish this time because, again, we're in a different year, so the Fed's at a different point in their cycle as of right now. But the thing I want to point out about Mara is every time we got this oversold on the 4 early, we did get a massive move up from that point the last 2 times, and we are starting to see the effects of that play out on the 3rd time here. So from the bottom of Mara on the oversold on the RSI, we've already moved up roughly about 29% here. But the thing I do want to point out here is basically we're looking potentially at this $14 level where this candle is at potentially a low or a buy area. You could buy somewhere in between these EMAs at 16 to 17. There is a zone here between 1850 to 20. And we also have 29.30 to 33, which it did hit previously. So if I were just to give you guys the measured move, let's just say from where the current price is all the way up to this high up here, you're looking at 87, 88%. If we do get a pullback, let's say Jackson Hole kind of freaks a lot of people out and they panic sell, paper hands, all that good stuff. Then we could get a dip back to 14 temporarily and then take off to the upside 140%. But like I said, again, my assessment of what I think Again, this is just my opinion. Okay, it's not a guarantee. I'm not saying this is definitively going to happen. I'm not God. I can't decide the future. Okay, but what I do think is going to happen is that people are going to be pleasantly surprised, in my opinion, that Jackson Hole is actually going to turn out to be a bullish event this year. Because the last 2 years have not been bullish. I went back and looked at the charts and they looked kind of scary. I'm just going to be honest. Okay, so CLSK, same story. Whenever we got the oversold signal here on the RSI, this time, and this most recent time, it did end up marking a local bottom, and then once again a local bottom. So we have kind of moved up a little bit here, but again, I suspect the real move in crypto going to the upside, anything crypto related, is going to start happening once the Fed actually cuts rates. So this is just kind of an anticipation of the Fed cutting rates. All right, so going out to the weekly time frame, you guys can see there's this kind of ugly looking gap thing we have to fill here. So that's roughly about 1275 to, I would say, roughly about 1330. So that suggests to me that likely we do have to go back up. You can see kind of a similar thing here. It came back down, pulled back, filled it, and then boom, took off to the upside. In this case, it was a gap down instead of gap up, so we have to go up to fill it. So maybe go up, kind of retest somewhere in here, and then boom, take off to the upside. So you could potentially look at this low as a buying point, so 950. I'm not sure it's going to go that low, though, because, again, we got the oversold on the 4-hourly, so I'd be looking at 1225 to 1380 as potential support here. And then targets 2114 to 2350. And then, of course, the higher bound here is 3630 to 4230. I'll just go with the relatively local move here because we got to get to this first zone before we can get to the next one. So 93% move here. Again, this is a potential bull flag, but unfortunately, yeah, because we had that gap down, I don't think it's even relevant anymore. So there is a possibility, though, that maybe this is an even greater megaphone pattern. I'm not really sure, but yeah, we'll just have to keep an eye out on that. So that CLSK RIOT still holding in the support zone, surprisingly, even after that crazy dump. So I did show you guys this on X with lots of different charts kind of all at once. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but if you missed out on it, that's another good reason to follow us on X. So you guys can see this arrow here indicates a local bottom. It wasn't exactly a perfect bottom, but the thing to point out here is not every single time is going to be exactly the same. So in this instance, we got oversold on the RSI, but there was actually bullish divergence. Okay, price going down, RSI going up, MACD going up, as you guys can see right here. And shortly after that bullish divergence formed, we did end up going up. And then we got another oversold signal right here, very deep shade of red. Boom, ripped to the upside. And then we got another oversold signal here and went to the upside. And we even got one right here. I didn't even notice this one, but in January, it also went up to the upside. So now I'm going to go over the weekly time frame, and basically for support, we're looking at 775 to 1015 roughly. The resistance zone, as you guys can see, those kind of candle and wick tops here got very clearly rejected with either profit taking or bears trying to short that zone. So 1850 to 21 would be the target in this case. Again, it's at the bottom of the range. You guys can kind of do whatever you want to with that. So 152% would be the potential maximum profit here. Of course, it could potentially go even higher than that. As you guys can see, Riot went all the way up to insane heights last cycle, $80 a share. Same thing with HUD 8. So HUD 8 over $80 a share in the last cycle, which is another reason why I think we have not seen the big move in crypto yet, because again, the miners really haven't gone to all-time highs. I mean, last all-time high for HUD 8 was over $80. And the highest level we've seen so far during basically this preparation year is what I like to call it, before next year, which next year would be the actual bull run year, the highest we've seen is 23. So that's roughly about 75% off the previous all-time highs. Okay, so HUD 8, we're still below the EMAs, but since all of crypto is moving up, there's a chance we could get above this. There is also, I could just draw this trend line here. You guys can kind of see that we finally did get above it. The other thing I want to point out here is, even though we have a MACD death cross on the weekly time frame, we did get a breakout of this falling wedge. So that was bullish and all. It didn't go quite to the top of the wedge, but pretty close. So I'm just going to point out the support zones for you guys here. I can't really tell you which way this is going to go. Again, it's kind of in no man's land, so I don't really have a decision one way or another on this. I would say probably the bottom of this trend line here, so maybe about 650 to 7, somewhere there, to 880 on support, 1750 all the way up to 2250 at that resistance zone. That's kind of where I'd be looking to buy if it was me. You guys can, of course, do what you want. So 246% gain here. CIFR. So we did break below this trend line. So we have to get back above it to get bullish. That could potentially hold as resistance here. But I'll just give you guys the zones. Once again, this is no man's land, so I can't really tell you whether I think it's going to go up or down. The thing that I notice immediately is that the price action has not closed below the red EMA yet, but it is still below these two top EMAs, which, as you guys know, is my swing trading indicator. And we broke below and are staying below this trend line. So we have a lot of resistance to get above to get this thing to break out. So 2 to 266 at support and 495 to roughly about 550 at the resistance. Then you have, of course, your wick high up there at $8. I'd be looking to buy in this green zone. So 135% move and then 239% respectively. BTBT, this thing has had a massive recovery. I'm actually quite shocked, to be honest. I think some of these other ones are probably a better deal than BTBT. I'm just going to be honest with you. So, Riot is a steal compared to something like BTBT. You can see it's in the green zone, whereas this thing's almost in the resistance. So support here at $160 to $2. Resistance 4.25 to 490, and then the swing high up there at 5.25. So from support to resistance, 164% and 188% respectively. And last but not least, BITF. So we have held this macro trend line. You can see we kind of flash crashed down to it, but didn't quite touch it, and then V-shaped recovery pretty much immediately after that. So this would be support as of right now, I would say. $2 to roughly 230, 295 to 360 resistance, and then the wick high up there at 390. In case you guys are wondering what the trend line support is, it's roughly about $1.50. Below that would be 40 cents to 90 cents. Come up with your own conclusions as to what you think is going to happen. In my opinion, I think likely the support is going to hold, and we're probably going to move up from here. Not just because of the technicals, but because of the fact that the Fed's getting ready to cut rates. We have the elections, all that stuff. So 50% and 65% respectively. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.